Welcome back to the Piano Pod. I am Clara Zhang.
I am Yukimi Song.
For anyone listening or watching our show for the first time, welcome back. Yukimi and I are both classical pianists and piano teachers from New York City. This podcast is for anyone who plays the piano for fun, loves listening to piano music, or for someone who is currently pursuing a career in piano or works in the industry professionally.
In each episode, we interview a guest speaker who has been breaking exciting new ground in the music industry. Before getting started, we want to thank our amazing fans and listeners for tuning in today. Please rate our show and review it on Apple Podcasts because every rating review will help people find our show.
So, Yukimi, this is going to be a very fun episode, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited about the guest of episode 3, of the season, Jolynn J Chin, an award-winning crossover pianist who was also a participant in America's Got Talent season 16.
Woohoo! I know, I'm so excited too. So in the past, we interviewed pianists like Jolynn, like crossover, neoclassical, contemporary pianists like Black Bog, Claire Marie Lim, aka Doltrek, Jonathan Ong from Australia, and of course Ray Mack.
That's right, Ray Mack. They were so cool and so fun to interview. I just remember, I was really inspired by their creativity, just how they go beyond what's considered normal and master their artistry, while their audience and how they engage with their audience.
Yeah, I know. And now with our new guest, Jolynn, I saw a few music videos by her, and wow, the production quality of the video is just totally another level. I mean, have you checked out her latest release, Lost? Have you seen it, the video? Yeah, right?
God, I love it. Yeah, I just saw it. She's definitely a new breed. I should say she represents the new generation of crossover pianists, reaching out to the Gen Z audience by creating such high quality video content.
Yeah, I know. And then when you visit her website, she also does film scoring and has some extensive teaching, coaching business. And I can't wait to meet her and talk to her.
Well, she is here. Let's get the show started.
Yay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Jolynn J Chin.
You're listening to The Piano Pod, where we talk to the brightest minds in the industry about how they are bringing the piano into the 21st century.
Jolynn J Chin is an award-winning electronic dance music crossover pianist and participant of America's Got Talent season 16, known for her virtuosic arrangements, amazing piano dexterity, and eclectic blends of modern classical crossover styles with pop elements. Her album, Beyond Classical EP, has been considered for the 62nd Grammy Awards in the category of Best Contemporary Instrumental Album. Jolynn is also a multi-genre film composer and music producer. Her work was nominated for Best Original Music in the short thriller film Echoes of Mind at the National Youth Film Awards in 2016. Born in Malaysia, Jolynn started her music education at the age of 5. She has been classically trained under prominent pedagogues and concert pianists. Her classy style and aura of performance resonate with a style that touches on equal parts originality and familiarity, and giving her audience a taste of something fresh and innovative, yet still relatable to her fans. So, Jolynn, welcome to the Piano Pod. We're so happy to have you on the show. Yay!
Welcome,
Thank you so much.
Thank
Such a pleasure and an honor to be on your show here today.
Oh my goodness. So I know you messaged us like a few weeks ago. And so tell us, how did you discover us?
So it was a pretty interesting way that I don't think anyone would have expected it to be. I was actually kind of scrolling the feed on Instagram.
Mhm.
And I was kind of looking for, I mean, I've been always doing this, I mean, from time to time, a community of instrumentalists, particularly pianists, and, groups and pages that support crossover music and stuff like that. And so one of the reels that I was scrolling up past was the piano pods. And I was like, hey, cool. Because I saw this exact one interview. I think it was with a pianist that was featured playing Liszt etudes. It could be somebody else's etudes, but I know it was like a set of etudes. And then that was how I found out about the piano pod. And yeah, hey, why not just try reaching out?
Yeah, we're so glad. And when we saw your videos and how you were engaging with your audience and on social media, we're like, we have to interview her. I mean, yeah, we couldn't wait. And so, and also recently you released your first original song. So we're going to talk about that more. It's called Lost. And I saw the video of it. It was just, whoa, the production level is just another level. And we were like, whoa, we really need to get to her. So yeah, we're so happy to have you. So we have like a ton of questions to cover. So yeah, let's get to it, right, Clara?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So we want to know, I know as soon as we saw your video, we realized, well, you're really a good pianist. As in, not only you're naturally talented and, as you said in the introduction, it's the natural dexterity, but also we can tell the training you had is very, very classical.
Solid.
Tradition, right? So can you tell us your childhood and where you grew up and how how you discovered the love for music? And then, so let's start with that.
Yeah, so you're definitely right. I am classically trained the whole way. And it's just, I kind of started with group music classes. It's not directly piano classes, but these are like kids classes where you kind of join and form a circle and play percussion instruments and stuff like that. And then from then on, it's typically those graded piano examinations where you start off with grade 1 and then go all the way to grade 8 and stuff. So that was basically part of my training when I was about 6, when I got thrown to start piano lessons. And the most interesting thing for me was that my hatred that grew from those piano examinations and the whole idea of preparing for like these kinds of syllabus and pieces got me super bored because of the pressure and that whole system of just learning 3 pieces, your scales and stuff, and those technical studies. So I hated piano when I became 9 or 10. And then I went to my parents, obviously, and I was telling them like, hey, I just want to quit piano. And that was not an option at that time. Also because they're kind of like, it's kind of a waste of probably 4 to 5 years of, music tuition fees. Mm-hmm. And so that was not an option. But what I did was I decided to find love and inspiration to just see what else I could do with this instrument besides preparing 3 pieces and whatever that was in the graded exam syllabus. And I found a lot of inspiration from instrumentalists and crossover artists like Vanessa May, for example, such a great violinist at that time. I think she just released her classical gas album, which I love so much, right until this day. And crossover pianists, especially like Maxim. This first track that I listened to was The Flight of the Bumblebee. And producers like David Foster, they really got me just like inspired so much that it was like a flick of a switch. I was just like, okay, I can do so much more with this instrument. And it doesn't even have to matter if I had to prepare for exams and stuff, but it created this sort of burning passion and fuel to be this person at the end of the day when I grew up. Somebody who would eventually create crossover music between, classical style playing. I didn't really care what it was at that time, if it was going to be a classical piece, because I was super young. But I knew I wanted to do my own kind of virtuosic compositions with modern beats. And at that time, it was kind of like pop, electronic music. At that time, rock, I guess, that was pretty popular. And it was kind of like the whole idea of creating something out of what I can do and play on the piano,
Right.
plus all of these genres as something that brought it all together at the end. And, just imagine myself going to own and produce music like this and perform in front of, thousands of people, this sort of music. So it was pretty much how I started off.
That's such a success story, I just, because, I mentioned that I'm also actually Chinese. So when I came to New York, or the US, and then when I used to teach in college, but when I started teaching children, I did have a lot of students' parents who asked me, can my children, take these exams? Now, myself, when I was young, I only took one exam before I went to the conservatory. So I know of it, but I was never, so I am not huge on pushing the student, but now I realize some of my students are having experience when they go to high school. Everybody have had the exam. They might play really well, my students, but they didn't have the exam. So some of them are like, one of my students just took grade 8 just directly and then passed it, got a high score. And he was like, well, see, now I have it. So now your story is such an inspiration for all of them, even if they get bored. And I have had students who take like grade 2, grade 5, grade 8, and it gets a little stuffy, so look. So those students out there, listen to Jolynn. You can do something.
Yeah,
something else.
Yeah,
don't stick to the graded exam syllabus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's great. So, but then your love for piano and music grew, but you had such amazing, training from famous teachers and famous pianists, concert pianists, right? How was the experience with, I see one name was Dr. Ong. He is a Juilliard graduate of pianist, and you had a training. How was it like?
I see Dr. Nicholas Ong as like my piano father, because, he was the one that picked me up when I was so young. I mean, I remember being about 14 or 15 years old. And I actually never really understood certain things. And that was how young I still was in, piano studies. I just knew that I had to do things a certain way, or like play a certain way. And, he basically brought me to explore so much more possibilities, technical wise. And I'm just so thankful to him, because it's actually because of his way of, carrying out some techniques on the piano and stuff like that, and helping me understand it, especially when I was really young. This is what brought me to be able to execute the most difficult passages or compositions that I would want to write. Sometimes, those passages where I myself would think it would be impossible, but it just sounds great to me. And so I just, write it down. But it's been great with him. There are times where he is really stern, especially when I don't, memorize an etude that he asked me to memorize in a week or something. But it's all good, and he actually introduced me to many other amazing concert pianists out there, like, for example, Andrew Brownell, and people like Li Mingqiang, who actually went to actual competitions, and I mean like Chopin piano competitions and stuff like that, and that's really hardcore. And I used to think that studying with my piano father, Dr. Ong, was pretty tough and intense, but that was till I went to those other master classes. That's like, wow.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. It was a great time.
Wow, that's good. Wow. So As I am listening to you, I was admiring your studio, and I recognize your studio because some of the videos were shot
Oh
in your
yeah.
beautiful studio, right? So where are you right now? Are you in LA or?
I'm currently in Malaysia,
Oh,
and I'm currently in my hometown, visiting family and friends. I just flew back from New York about 2 months ago, almost close to 2 months ago, and I'm going back on the road again in a couple weeks' time, middle of October or so, and just continue this whole performing, touring thing, and my nomadic performing life. This this studio was actually made like I think 8 or 9 years ago, and at that time I knew I had to do something and on a more serious level, and for my artistic career. But I was really young. I was just like um, close to 20 years old, and I didn't really have a lot of money. Actually, to be frank, I had no money at all. I remember having like maybe just like $100 in my bank account. So, and I'm like, okay, we got to make a studio still because this is going to be my second home besides my bed, like literally my bed. And we got to find some place to just create, like just create and not care about anything else. And that was how determined I was. And so I remember my friends and I just creating this whole DIY project with half of a mattress sheet, like a super cheap mattress sheet. And we literally ordered like maybe 10 or 20 of these. We actually cut them ourselves and we wrapped them with like super cheap thin cloth and fabric that we bought from the store in a market. And I remember sticking it with just like silicone gel. And yeah, that's the studio. That's a DIY
So
studio. And many people
creative.
think that, wow, this was like, conditioned and stuff, but it's a DIY project.
wow.
Great
Yeah,
work.
I
Oh my
know.
God, I
It's
love that so much.
The
yeah.
Toccata was shot here too.
Oh yeah. We want to talk about Toccata. So that was like sort of your breaking point, right? The song came out
Yeah.
and you became big. So can you tell us the about Toccata?
Well, Toccata was definitely a break. Not only like music industry wise, for me and my music career, but as well as like a whole mental, break free kind of thing, because it has been so long. Like we're talking about years since I wanted to always be an artist that, like really just produce and came out with an album and your own music and stuff like that. So Toccata was the first single that was ever produced, and it was sent to my music producer, Roger Montejano, was and the member of the Grammy Recording Academy, and that was my first session with a real music producer and recording it in a real music studio. So that was definitely a proof to my younger self, that you actually made it. You actually made your own songs and stuff. Because I remember also, just thinking about the whole thing when I was probably 10 years old and creating a cutout CD out of paper and then, pretending that was my album and my songs in
Wow.
it. So Toccata was definitely a breakthrough for me, not only like, in my music life wise, but also that mental breakthrough.
Yeah, then I heard that song, and then you were, of course, infusing, famous Bach's,
Yeah,
toccata in D minor
Toccata.
or the organ. But in the middle, you do a lot of cool arrangement, like a variation. But it's more like a jazz fusion. Have you studied jazz with jazz musician?
So basically, when I was 13 years old, I started listening to Dave Brubeck a lot. And I started listening to so many of his music, especially those Blue Rondo a la Turk, that has crazy time signatures, like dance, unsquared dance and stuff like that. Da, 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 da. It's like if you were to look at the score, I think it was 2 + 2 + 3 over 8 kind of thing. And so that inspired me to, create those typical swing movements you have in the song break at that part of Toccata, but also playing around with time signatures. And that was how I came up with that kind of 5/4 rhythm.
Wow. I love it.
You are so really creative and also actually very brave, very, a lot of musicians really, and then you were talking about with the vision board, right? Like, I mean, I had certain of these, I also, when I was little, there's no musicians in my family. So I just kept on saying, hey, I'm going to New York, like I was just like, and I remember I had a CD and of Horowitz, and then I was like, all right, that's where I'm gonna have my studio, like on Upper East Side of New York. And then it happened. So it's kind of like a vision board. But when you're young, you don't even think about it, right? You're just like, okay, I'm just gonna do that, So
I'm gonna do that.
Right, that's so great. And then I move on to ask, when did you enter the American Got Talent? You were on, right? For in 16, I believe.
Yes, it was season 16, which was last year, basically 2021. And that was I think that was the most random thing I did, or random thing I would expect myself to do. And many people are just like, hey, how did you get to participate on the show? Like, how did you send your videos? What did you do? How did you get on the show? And I'm like, yo, I was just sitting down in my studio one day about to practice and stuff. And I got like emails, I got Instagram DMs, and I think DMs on my Facebook from one of their casting producers saying like, hey, we watched your videos, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to be on America's Got Talent next year? And that was like, I think it was 2020. That was like a year before the year I was in.
Got it.
And, they basically invited me to be on the show. Like, like, we're going to fly you in. We're going to give you like 5-star hotels and stuff. And I was just like, okay. Because I always knew, I always associated America's Got Talent to acts, like crazy acts, like the people who could literally turn your backs 360 or something. And I was just there like, okay, like what's a pianist gonna do there? And then I realized they actually contacted me because one of my viral videos went to their feed. And that was when I was mashing up Ariana Grande's 7 Rings with I think it was Mozart's Turkish March. No, it was Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. That was what I did. Okay. Yeah. I was playing them on 2 pianos at the same time. So that was what they literally wanted to have on the show. So it was kind of like a Mozart piece and then create something else on the side. So we kind of agreed on Dance Monkey, and then that was how it happened.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh my
it's the most random thing, seriously.
But
how I planned like a full strategy of how to get on AGT for some reason. I'm like, I was just sitting down and like, I just got the email,
Good for you. Good for you.
But that's sort of the result of your work, right? Like you are posting a lot on social media and of course the YouTube, and you're really put your effort and quality, right? So that's why people see you. And then what was the experience like, the whole?
It was pretty intense. I mean, being on set, you don't really get to have breaks at all. But I would remember it's just filming, like just nonstop of filming the full day. And one of the best parts was that we shot my first round at the Pasadena Hall. I think it was the auditorium where Michael Jackson performed his first moonwalk. It was pretty cool.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it was like Pasadena City Hall or something, or was it a city auditorium? So that was pretty cool. And what's pretty cool is definitely getting to meet and work with Terry Crews in person.
That's true.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And seeing Simon Cowell in person too.
What's he mean? Was Simon Cowell
so nice?
Oh, really?
That was all act.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was really different from I mean, basically they're all different from what the camera portrays them to be. And anyway, I can't say much, but it is a reality show at the end of the day. And reality shows is a TV show. So it's pretty much, expected. But they're all really nice and they're really professional to work with. I think everyone on set is really professional. And of course, as you know, if you get to audition on stage and, get to be in that area on set, you're basically working with many acts that are invited to the show. So
Mm,
you're basically working with professional people, making it fun and easy for
sure.
crew and filming
Right.
staff. So it's all good.
That
Oh,
is amazing. Oh my God. I love that story so much.
yeah.
When we moved to the US, I actually entered this thing called, it's kind of like American Idol, but the Chinese version, 推新人大赛. I don't know if you, and
Oh,
that,
I didn't know about that.
yeah. So at that time, it was kind of like China Idol, which I entered without even letting my parents know. But then the last day, when after audition, everything, I was actually touring in the US, and then my flight was delayed, so they waited for like 2 days. That was
Wow.
like but it's so I never got to really experience the final in studio, but you did it. So that's
Yeah,
so exciting that you came
yeah.
all the way from
That's cool.
yeah. And are you based still in Malaysia, or after the show are you also based in US sometimes now?
That's one of the hardest questions I always ask myself. Basically, because of performing schedule and stuff, it's always depending on where my next performance is at. If I'm gonna be performing in this next country, then yeah, I'll be staying here or be based in there for as long as I would be performing there for, like could be like from a week or so to like maybe 2 months or 3 months and stuff. So
Got it.
yeah, it kind of depends. I'm kind of like
Mm,
a nomadic person.
Wow, that is a very exciting way of living.
of course.
Yeah, I would. Yes,
Ultimately, that's like
yeah.
the dream for
Dream,
all
yeah, for
artists.
all the
Right.
artists. Yes, of course.
That's so cool.
Now, so I want to also, as you mentioned about Michael Jackson, so I'm a huge MJ fan, and
Oh
and
yeah.
I saw your Human Nature arrangement, and it's really beautiful. And that's a very hard song to play on the piano to begin with, and then of course, you are mixing, and so I want to know your covers, right? So you not only
Yeah.
the Human Nature, but also Blackpink, the South Korean, female group,
Yeah.
and then so you were using Ableton Launchpad thing, and I don't know how you use that, but also you were at the same time. What impressed me with the video was that you were using contemporary piano playing technique. So like, plucking the strings and then the glissandos on not on the keys, but on the strings. That's a really contemporary way of doing this. So where did you learn all these technique? And also, like, you tell us about the arrangement.
I think it's just getting inspired a lot by, pianists online like Peter Benz. Um, and I feel like a lot of cover pianists has incorporated things like that. And so, me being someone who loves experimenting, I had to experiment with piano percussion a lot. And especially when producing stuff, I love to sample any parts of the piano that could create a different sound, or add different textures and different timbres to the track. So that was what made me start, experimenting with piano percussion. And basically, Human Nature was created out of a looping sequence with piano percussion, and that just makes the whole process easier because I always wanted to envision something that I could lay on top first with piano percussion and to create this whole track out of just parts of the piano alone. And so that was my whole vision for Human Nature, just to have something that could loop on its own, but is made from a part of the piano, and then to just play on top of it, basically. So that
Wow.
was basically what carried Human Nature.
I mean, you just have all these ideas. And also you did mention when you were younger, you started with drum lessons as well, or drum playing. Did you say that in a group lesson there was a piano and drums?
Oh yeah,
Was that the
but that was like when we
inspiration?
were 5. Yeah.
Oh, I see. But I wonder if those, all had some sort of impact of like mixing things, feeling okay. It's okay to not just doing one instrument. And I'm curious if I lately have this new obsession of I work out with BTS music, I saw that late at night, like, okay, I'm gonna do my some little dance. So I know we know you did a BTS Butter, right? That was the one, and with two digital pianos and simultaneously, right? Is it more like just for entertainment purpose, or like did you two keyboards, or how did you produce all different sound? Tell us.
Yeah, that there was basically a whole structure of course, piano percussion and those EDM beats that I would usually lay on top of tracks. So that was just that. And the melodies were mainly the piano parts, but I had the synth with me at the same time. So the other keyboard was actually producing that synth sound. So it was definitely a piano sort of synth partnership going on where the piano would play melodies and the synth would be accompanying, and then they do this switch of synth playing the melody and then piano would accompany. So that was what I had for BTS. Um, I did that crossover cover because I got too many requests to do a BTS number at that
Of
time.
course.
But
That's
I
like
mean,
it, right?
yeah, I'm an okay person with BTS music. I think many people could tell as I just, I just made one cover of BTS and that was it. But
I see. But if there's a request, you do it, right?
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
they are popular. I remember last year in Milan, I arrived. I was like, "Are there concerts?" And my friends were like, "I don't know if there are any classical concerts, but the BTS is here. They have a concert."
yeah,
So these are, and I really love the arrangement. It's like so jazzy and everything. So
oh yeah,
Yeah, so using two keyboards was not the entertainment purpose, but for to have the different sound. So this keyboard has this certain setting and this
Purely
keyboard has the purely technical. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I mean, using two keyboards or like two pianos was never like entertainment purposes.
Oh, really? It's never?
That,
Yeah, it looks really
that
like
would just be like no, that would just be it would be too much work. But there's certain parts, of course, because I mean during my shows and stuff, there are certain songs when it just requires me to play on one piano alone. And most of the videos that had one piano alone and I perform it in my shows, of course, it usually just takes one piano alone. But at that time, when you have like two pianos on stage, and I would usually tend to find a way to sort of utilize the other piano, then I guess a certain fraction of these performances would be for entertainment purposes. But most of the time, if you see two pianos on the video part, it was definitely, the other playing synth and bass, either a bass orchestral section and of an orchestral arrangement that I made with holding chords, long value note chords and stuff like that.
hey guys, we're now officially on Patreon.
Yay, I'm so excited about our next step on this podcast journey.
Same here. So, dear TPP fans, we love what we do, and it's been an incredible journey for both of us for the last 2 years. And we're now in season 3. And more than ever, we need your support to continue our work by bringing you highly valued content bi-weekly by interviewing a A-lister in the industry.
So please go to patreon.com/thatpianopod and become part of the TPP community by subscribing to us. With your subscription, you will receive monthly subscriber-only exclusive content from our show.
That's right. And once again, it's patreon.com/thepianopod.
We can't wait to connect with you on Patreon very soon. As I am listening and then, well, I still have this strong impression of you told me about the story of this examination, how you hate it, and right? And I'm not here to oppose anything, but I totally can relate to the way you felt, because at one point I felt like I was stuck too. But something happened, life happens, and then you found your way. And one of your ways was this amazing ability to utilize music technology. I love technology, although I don't know much about music technology wise, like music world, but I love using different softwares. Even like doing this podcast, I have to use a lot of editing softwares. I love it. I love it. But the way you're doing is like, while you're performing, you're pressing this key and then looping and two pianos. Wow. So I'm very curious to know because that takes a lot of not just your curiosity, but I think you have to have some sort of training, because we, Clara and I interviewed, Jonathan Ong from Australia. He's a streamer, and Claire Lim. Her stage name is Doltrick. She's like you, using Ableton and all those music and she went to Berkeley College, and she's now a professor
there.
Right. Too. So, and how did you start this journey? So, my generation, I'm old, so I didn't grow up laptop with laptop right next to me. That came maybe much later in my life, but probably your generation, laptop, tablets, smartphones, those, all those game stuff, they were probably accessible everywhere. So maybe that's one of the reasons. But I want to know what sort of training you had, or what was the introduction to the music technology?
I have to say it was a pretty intense, and it was a very, very huge gap when I first started, because I was classically trained, and anything of that, devices, DAW systems and stuff like that, Ableton, Pro Tools, anything that has to do with electronic music or modern music was kind of always shunned in the classical music industry. Right. So it was pretty hard to expose myself to any of these electronic stuff, technology, audio technology, basically, until I started pushing myself in the direction of being, a crossover artist. And that was when I went to my music producers, got a music studio and stuff like that to work hand in hand to produce my first album, my first crossover music. That was when the whole branding shifted. I used to play a lot of classical shows and classical performances. I literally still have a lot of videos with me in a classical soloist gown.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I could send it to you guys later too. You have to see it.
I want to see it.
We're going to post it. We're going to show our audience.
Yeah. It was just a little shift. I mean, a couple of months ago, I was playing Nuestras, Danzas Argentinas. And then,
I love it. Beautiful.
Yeah, and then, when I got into this artist career more seriously, it was just an immediate shift. I started changing the way I dress. Well, not basically me, but my music producer started rebranding me as, a real artist to where I wanted to be. And from there, because I worked really closely with him producing my album, that was when he taught me how to compose and produce my own demos. From the stuff that he does with my single on Ableton, I would start, writing notes here and there and, try to learn Ableton a little bit. And he would also get me to help him and engineers in the studio hands-on. So I would learn how to roll cables, get the correct microphones. And I remember he would talk about, the different microphones that he was using to record Toccata, because since Toccata was recorded on two different pianos and one creating resonance, and he would explain how each synth wave flow and why he plays certain microphones there and what does it do, decibel counts, decibel measurements and stuff like that. So I think that was when I was really exposed, not only physical wise with the whole way, I was rebranded to look, and also with that little bit of training I had here and there, that was how I shifted and transitioned into, this whole new world of producing music instead of just that typical write and play and record kind of thing. But it was definitely a really big gap. But I think it's because of this physical and mental change in here. Well, no, just physically. Then that was how it sort of affected me mentally to adjust and adapt to this whole new modern world of producing music with technology instead. So yeah, it stemmed from there.
That's beautifully said. I love the adapt and adjust because that's what's all about our podcast show, how we are going to adapt and adjust into this new generation. And we're not totally abandoning the tradition. We are classical musicians, right? But I love the way you described. But you said it so easily, but it looks so complicated because yeah, it just takes coordination. I mean, playing the piano itself is a coordination, using pedal, even the pedal has to be subtle. And while doing right hand, left hand, even like a parallel motion itself takes coordination because we're not made parallel, right? Then with that, and they're pressing this button and it, made this short, I don't know how to call it, track or whatever, and then looping. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the piece, you switch the mood of the piece with the press of it. It just blows my mind. Did it take a long time for you to sort of learn how to coordinate? Because in a way, you're orchestrating everything. Did it take a long time?
In the first couple tracks, when I just started experimenting with what else I could do with the Launchpad, I actually didn't know what I was doing at all. It was a mess. But I remember my producer, he was sort of like forcing me to get that, like, go get a Launchpad. And then it comes with, when you get a Novation Launchpad, basically most of Novation's products come with a free version of Ableton. So that was his sort of excuse for me to, like, you don't have to, spend money on anything. Just get this Launchpad and it comes with everything that you can do and start, producing. Because to him, that was the only way to get me to just start off, and start producing my own music as soon as possible, and, break into the music industry. So I just basically got that. I had no idea what I was doing. I was looking up tutorials, like how do you loop on Ableton, stuff like that. And then how to actually connect the electronic piano as a MIDI controller to Ableton and trigger tracks, trigger loops just with buttons and stuff. And, like just playing the piano while accompanying yourself with like these loops that you create. So that was basically how I started off with. It was definitely a mess, but I can definitely tell you when it comes to, when I'm trying to create something on the spot now with these launch pads and things like that. Basically, these are just triggers. You don't need to have a launch pad as long as you have like a button to trigger these loops. For example, I just bought a 49 key Novation key station that literally has like 8 launch pad buttons on top of the keyboard as well. So that's basically incorporating my piano and a launch pad already to take with me. So that's basically a trigger button on that, and then playing with it. And once you know how it works with Ableton, it's super easy. But I totally understand the part about multitasking. And I definitely have to say that, it's actually no difference to, if someone were to say, oh yeah, the Liszt La Campanella is the most difficult etude and the piano is the most challenging thing. Like there's nothing compared to modern. I don't like it when things like this are being compared, because if you would understand how much it takes to produce something on the spot, like you're literally orchestrating, it doesn't have to be a real orchestra, but electronic instruments, electronic beats and stuff on the spot while creating and mastering technicalities on the piano. That's also something in itself. It was tough to master, definitely, in the first place. And yeah,
And then
you just got to start somewhere.
Exactly. Again, I keep on coming back to this, that you have to be brave enough. Sometimes, a lot of times, I mean, I remember when the first time I performed with my iPad, so I don't have to, so I can turn the page with my pedal. But I remember it took me like my 8 years or something because I went to a concert and then this pianist, I think the pedal charger was off or something. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. So, but eventually pandemic started and we started to do concerts at home. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'm going to try to explore finally,
Yeah.
So it really takes a lot. And now we want to talk a bit more of your touring career. Now I know since last year you've been going on tours, or has it been even before that, before the American Got Talent? And tell us more of your touring career. Also, I'm actually quite curious, how did you find your you said your producer, right, in the very beginning? This producer, I assume, is in Malaysia with you?
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, basically, I toured before the pandemic. That was basically my, I would say, the stuff that I would eventually want to do full time at
Yeah.
that point. And at that point, I was still working at 9 to 5.
Oh,
I just
wow.
started this
What are you
whole artist
doing?
thing. Yeah, and I was a piano teacher. Like I teach piano
Ah,
to like classes, but that was like a bunch of classes, like in music schools where, they just give you a timetable and you gotta, go to work from this
sure.
time to that time for like 6 days a week or something. That was so tiring. Um, but I gotta find a way to make this music thing work, and I
Sure.
needed the money.
Mm.
I mean, so I just try to make it work. And I remember like, starting off, it was pretty easy. I just had to wake up super early in the morning to do my research and stuff. How do I promote my own music? How do I become a successful artist? Stuff like that, tutorials on YouTube. How do I grow my followers? How do I maintain fan base? How do I get shows? All of that research done. And then I would go to work, and then after 9 hours or so, I would come back, do that research again, all the way till the night, like late at night, and then repeat the same thing, rinse and repeat. And then basically it went really well. I mean, things from there just started as like, going up, and like
Yeah.
we just kept going up. And there was a point where I started getting more shows,
Right.
and I was kind of like, oh, but I can't fly off to this place because I'm working a 9 to 5. It eventually became to that point. But it was doing so well. I was ready to like, okay, we gotta figure something out.
Yep.
And then I started touring in Singapore at that time, and I was in Singapore. And that was where we first started getting these shows. I was booked for like night festivals and headlining festivals for like 4 nights in a row on that particular COVID year, I think it was 2020.
2020. Wow.
Yeah, 2020 basically. That was basically the start of where all of the lockdowns happened. So I think it was in March or April we got those confirmations, even jazz festivals and stuff. And I think about like 4 bookings in LA where I had to find an excuse. I remember at that time to write a work leave for just to fly there. And then the pandemic hit. That was literally the start of where everything I saw would, just take off. And that was that moment where I would leave my 9 to 5. But the pandemic hit and we couldn't go to music schools. I couldn't teach in that music school, physically.
Sure.
So that was when I discovered Twitch,
Mm.
the streaming platform. And that was when I told people, like, I'm not performing in all of these things because of the lockdown, but I'm still willing to do shows for free, like virtually here, because it's a platform where anyone can watch.
Yeah.
And that really helped me. Twitch really helped me because through Twitch, people start subscribing for a certain amount of money, and they started tipping. So I think those couple of months I was streaming on Twitch before we started opening up, was a great thing for me. And then I started getting a couple of shows here and there after the pandemic. Um, and then also that was the time when I got invited to AGT.
That's true.
Also the same time when my 9 to 5 contract was ending,
Okay.
and the school wanted to continue it and forced me to continue my contract. And I was like, man. I'm done.
I
I'm
am not
living the life
here.
right now. I made it as a full-time artist. I'm not doing that anymore. So,
Right.
but of course, I didn't tell them that. But yeah, and I think it's all because, yeah, also my music producer, he's the one that made most of this possible today, seriously. And got me shifted like, hey, okay, you gotta do this. We gotta go this direction now, like, away from the classical thing. And I met him in Singapore when I was actually looking for a decent recording studio and a professional one to record at. And he's actually from Spain, Madrid.
Oh,
And
wow.
he recently moved to Singapore, and the
Right.
timing is just so on point because he just moved to Singapore. And
Right.
when I contacted that studio, they were just like, "Oh, hey, I think this girl really wants to, do it professionally and stuff and go big. Let me ask this, producer of ours that just arrived in Singapore and wanted to work in our studio." So he went to him and then he saw my bio and stuff and he was like, "Oh yeah, okay, let's start working." And that was how we met. Literally.
Wow.
I mean,
Again, you
yeah.
took all the actions, and so
Yeah,
all of
I
the things
know.
will just come in,
I'm just impressed because I know the 9 to 5 job at music school sort of lifestyle.
Yeah,
We
we all
all
had to do
had to do it. And it's in a way, yes, gives us security, but sometimes the security becomes like a comfortable blanket, you know what I mean? So, but you, on the other hand, you're very young, but you still keep punching and you still keep going forward and rebranding yourself. That is admirable. And so then look where you are, just produced Lost. So we want to talk about Lost. And honestly, when I first saw the video, I quickly sent it to Clara. Oh my gosh. The production level is the
It
next
was
level.
amazing.
Yeah, we've interviewed crossover pianists quite a lot, and I'm not comparing, but this is a new generation, right? Because there is this high quality video content, which is you are speaking to the generation of Gen Z. So tell us about Lost. So where does this name Lost come from? And then I'm still hearing the melody over and over because I was listening to this song over and over this morning while I was taking selfie and everything.
Oh, I didn't know that was a cool selfie song.
Yeah, but in the middle of the desert, you're playing, you're the keyboard. So tell us the story behind Lost.
For many years, I've been known as the crossover pianist girl, um, that basically does these mashups, they call it, of, classical composers' pieces and famous pieces that many people listen to but don't know the title of, Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, and stuff like that. And then, oh, she has a trap beat. And she does it with Ariana Grande stuff. Those are pretty cool and stuff. But the ultimate goal at the end of the day has always been to, create that dream of mine. I was 9 years old at the piano, and how I wanted to actually have this crossover genre on top of my own original melodies, original compositions that are classically influenced, like classical virtuosic melodies and stuff. So Lost is basically the breakthrough of that, and basically showcasing what I've always wanted years ago. And so when I created this, I also had it with, I knew I wanted something from the EDM genre going into that because I connect with EDM so much. And one of my favorite EDM artists, Zed, who is, classically trained on the piano himself, is my inspiration. And recently, I've always been in touch with the EDM genre of deep house and chill step. So Lost is basically a combination of what I've always wanted, those original virtuosic melodies, plus a deep step beat to it. So that was how it came about. And when I created that melody on the piano, I added a lot of texture behind it. So it's not just the piano sound itself, and it's definitely not just a one piano sound, but it's basically a combination of different piano layerings and textures all into, one whole track. It's basically my signature sound. And I also have my own presets of, reverb and echo mixture to create this whole space. Because like it's lost, and I wanted to recreate this thing where it's like, you're kind of in a path where you have tons of opportunities and you don't really have a certain place that you want to go or a certain thing that you want to do at a certain point in life. I say certain too many times, but
It's okay.
basically, like recreating that whole vibe. And you want, my initial plan of it was to create this whole emptiness, which just has the melody so much space to breathe, and then, have that whole idea of thinking and space to think and reflect. And then boom, the beat drops and stuff like that. So that was what I wanted to create. And I mean, basically, if you have something like that, I mean, I'm really bad with title names. And to me, that's just what you get and what you kind of feel when someone's, lost in a phase of life. So I'm just like, oh yeah, lost sounds cool. So lost.
Yeah, but lost doesn't mean you're lost, but you're maybe lost in your thoughts, lost in your work, lost in your creativity. I felt that way. And it was shot in the middle of a desert. And where was it?
Oh yeah. So you're exactly right on that lost part. And that was the whole point of shooting in a desert. Like I want to make it feel like it's just so empty. Like there's nobody around me. And I'm like, where else can we do that? Like I don't think, because like, I literally imagine myself and placing myself in a field filled with like grass and stuff. And I was speaking to my video director about this, and it's like, hey, like, if we were to do it somewhere else, like a national park, I don't really think it will work because, it has a lot of elements in it, like nature elements such as grass, and that makes it not empty.
Right.
So when we were thinking about locations, and when my director suggested that we take it to the El Mirage Desert, that was like, it's just flat and it's a dry lake, right? So, just placing the piano there against everything that's empty, that just fits the whole, idea and representation of the track. So
where is this desert? This is in Asia or?
This is in El Mirage in California.
In California, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And when you are composing all these music, you compose for movies as well, right? And the gaming music, and that's really cool. And commercials, like how do you just do it for your own enjoyment, or do you get contract, or people, commission you to do these things? How does that work?
Oh, definitely. Contracts and stuff, and by commission, because creating these kinds of tracks, especially like cinematic tracks, takes a lot of time. But I remember there are times when inspiration just comes, and it's always good for me to keep a file or a list of cinematic music that I could use or sell off to clients and stuff like that. So that usually comes once in a while when I have inspiration to write thriller music, horror music, sci-fi music, and just produce it on the spot. But other than that, it's mainly when, somebody asks for a thriller package, a horror movie package, and things like that. And my specialty is thriller and horror. So I tend to do that a lot, and a lot of my samples are of that genre.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Next time if I watch a scary movie, I have to think about, how to see you wrote those, That's amazing.
Eventually, I can see you standing on the podium of Academy Award accepting the award of film scoring. So, and right? Yeah.
Hopefully.
Wow. You are have such an energy of, I don't know, just very inspiring. Yeah. I really enjoyed this conversation, and Honestly, we can go on, and we had a lot more questions, but we're kind of sort of close to the end of our interview session, so you have to come back and tell us more down the road. Yeah. So anyway, so before we go, we have like a few traditions. So one is we would like for you to give younger piano students some advice. What would it be?
Don't be afraid to break the rules.
Yes.
I love that. Whoa.
Yeah.
Rule breakers.
Just do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to break the rules, and whatever that you think would sound good may sound good in the end, and may just be what the world needs at the end of the day and needs to listen to. So yeah.
Now, before we go into the rapid fire segment, we want to promote your Lost. That's your first original solo piece, Lost, is now available on all music services such as Apple Music, iTunes, and then Spotify and Amazon Music and all that other services, plus YouTube. And all the links are in the description section. So dear audience, we would like for you to check them out. So Jolynn, before we go, we are going into the rapid fire questions, and it will give you some fun questions, and then would like for you to answer with the shortest answer as possible for each question. Okay.
Ooh, I'm scared.
Don't be scared. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Question number 1. What is your comfort food?
Ooh, that's hard. Chicken soup.
Chicken soup.
Oh, good. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
What is your word or words to live by?
Fake it till you make it.
I love that.
Love it. What is the most important quality you look for in other people?
Genuine. Is there a word for it? Genuine.
Genuine.
Yep.
Yeah. So what is the worst quality in people you want to stay away from?
Fake people. No, wait, toxic.
Toxic.
That's right. Name 3 people who inspire you, living or dead.
Al Jarreau, Sade, David Foster.
Name 1 piece in your current playlist.
Oh, wow. I have a lot on my playlist, but Lewis Cole, Thinking.
Thinking?
Yeah, Thinking.
Okay, Thinking. Okay. All right, I'll check that out.
That's a banger.
Name 1 book title in your library.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
A good book to read. Yes.
You get only 1 song or piece to listen to for the rest of your life. What is it?
Wow. Has to be Le Bestrom.
The best song?
Yeah, Le Bestrom.
Liebestrom.
Yay.
Wow, that is good. That is good. I see you love list. So last question. Music is blank. Fill in the blank.
Music is dope.
Music is dope. That is so cute. Nobody said that.
One word? I know it's supposed to be 1 word, but
music is dope. That's so cool.
We're talking to the new generation.
I know, right? Oh my gosh. Oh, that is so adorable. Okay, thank you. So that concludes this episode of the Piano Pod. Thank you, Jolynn, for joining us today and sharing your stories and insights and expertise. And you can find more information about her on her website at JolynNJChin.com. And we want to encourage the audience to listen or watch her latest song called Lost. All the links are listed in the description.
Thank you to our wonderful audience and the fans for tuning in today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review it on whatever podcasting platform you use. If you're watching us on YouTube, remember to hit the thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Yes, you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. The links are in the description below.
If you are interested in being the guest or recommending someone to be on our show as a guest, or you'd like to sponsor or collaborate with us, shoot us an email at thepianopodnyc@gmail.com or send us a DM via social media.
We'll see you for the next episode of the Piano Pod.
Bye, everyone. Thank you,
so much,
Jolene.
Jolene.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.